On today's show, I had a chance to talk with Anthony Kemp Jr. He is a specialist in safety and health in the construction industry. He also has a podcast called Safety Realm, in which he talks about everything safety, especially OSHA related safety topics. I thought I would bring him on the show so that he could share some of his safety knowledge with our listeners. We recorded this a few months back, but in this episode, we had a chance to discuss safety on the job and being safe at home. Whether at work or at home, I think you'll enjoy this episode. Welcome to the 24-Hour Boss Podcast. This is the show where we talk about business, online marketing, and side hustles. You ready to dive into it? Let's talk about it. Hey, Mr. Anthony Jr., welcome to the 24-Hour Boss Podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on, and I'm happy to collaborate with you.
Yes, sir. Definitely want to talk with you because you are the expert in this category, in this field. And I guess for our listening audience, tell us about your profession and what you do.
So I am a safety and health specialist. I'm a safety representative that works for a actual mechanical company called DynaTen. And so my job is to go out to job sites and visit different clients and do an analysis on the job site, do a job site observation, and find issues that specifically could pertain to the safety of the employees for the company. And I provide whatever they need. If we got to eliminate a hazard, if we possibly can, this is a part of the hierarchy of controls, or I'll bring up some type of engineering control or an administrative control. And then the last thing that I give them, if we can't get rid of the hazard, is personal protective equipment. And that's pretty much what I do on a regular basis.
Wow, that sounds pretty deep, sir. It sounds like you got a lot of medals behind your name there. But and that's why I wanted to actually bring you on because I saw that you are a specialist in the safety and health field. So a lot of people don't know much about that. And so of course in this day and time, it's so much going on and so much that we need to be aware about on our jobs, not only on our jobs but even in our homes. And actually I was thinking when just a thought that came to me, and I guess I'll just ask it, but is there like, maybe because I guess since you're in this field, is there anything or a product that is under like the safety radar right now that we as consumers or people need to be watchful of? Like, is there anything out there maybe that's on the radar right now that, hey, you know what, people need to know about this? I mean, I don't know, that thought just dawned on me.
Well, it kind of depends. Outside of work, of course, we have, the actual surgical mask going on with COVID. And, I haven't seen anybody wearing any respiratory, like self-breathing apparatuses or anything like that, where it can bring in oxygen from the outside air. And there's a little pack that you can put on your waist. Now, this is just overkill. I don't think anybody would do it, but it cleans the air before it gets to you. And so it has a filter on it, and it filters out the bad particles and things like that in the air before it gets to you. I don't think anybody would use that, but I know for the most part, everyone is using actual, mask out, like actual surgical mask, to try to, reduce catching the new COVID variant. And as far as at work, anything out specifically, I can't say exactly because it really depends on exactly what you're doing. If you're in an office space, they do have what they call, it's non-hand using scanners. I'm pretty sure people who are listening have probably seen them, where you can just come in and you just kind of put your head up and it scans you and nobody has to be there. It's electronically battery operated, which is very, very useful to keep people away from people who may come into work with COVID. I guess you can say that's really the hot thing right now.
Right. Yeah, that's true. With COVID and of course the Delta variant that a lot of people are talking about. And I guess what you're saying is like, this is like touchless, where people don't have to touch anything and it just basically picks you up. That's pretty good. That's pretty interesting. And in regard to the mask, I guess I know when the pandemic first came out, I know you heard a lot of people having like looking for the N95 mask. Is that still like I guess the top of the line masks that are maybe good for you?
Yes, sir. That is probably going to be the cheapest, most affordable option. And the reason why I say that is because the self-breathing apparatuses that, and things like that, those are kind of like, battery operated, electronic, or you got to be plugged up at a facility. But the actual N95 mask, I have a buddy I work with, man, he don't go no, he does not. I wear one like a company one, and I just kind of can bring it up. And to be honest, it's probably not going to protect me as much as the N95 mask, but it's something that when I go to sites, the clients can see and say, okay, this is somebody who understands that you need to cover your nose and mouth. But yeah, the N95 mask is going to be the best, most affordable option that's out there right now.
Okay, great. That's good to know. All right. So, I want to ask, so what made you become so interested in the health and safety field? And I guess I want to say for our listening audience, the Anthony Jr. He's a young man. He's a family man. You may hear his daughter in the background, which is great. I already told him that's great that we get to hear the kids in the background. But he's a young man, and I guess for myself, and I think it's good, but he's actually in the health and safety. So it's like, this is a young man that's actually concerned for the public, to be in the health and safety field. And so I guess what made you want to get, into the health and safety field?
To be 100% transparent, I actually wanted to be a cybersecurity specialist. I think me and you talked about that a few years ago.
Yes, I remember
And,
that.
I just got to a point where I kind of got discouraged. I said, man, they keep saying I need all these certifications. It's going to take me 4 or 5 years to get probably to where I want to be. And so I was a lab technician, and I'm kind of giving you background so everybody can see how I got to this point.
Yeah.
And I've been a security guard. I've had a couple of different jobs, and, I was in the lab industry testing concrete soils for buildings before they were built, trenches and things like that for piping. And I just told God, I said, I don't really have a direction. I have ambition, which is good, but I don't really have direction. And
Hmm.
one thing I know about God, he's a God of purpose. And I'm like, man, I don't have no, I'm working, but I feel like I don't have purpose. I'm making a check, but I don't have purpose. So I asked God, I said, can you open up my understanding to something that I can do? Because I want to do a couple of different things. So I don't really know what to choose. And, I prayed about it, and safety and health came up. I said, well, I'm already in the construction industry somewhat. I'm in like civil engineering type of work, civil work, which is outside of buildings, building structures and piping and stuff. So I said, well, let me look into safety. And I kid you not, I prayed about it. I said, God, I think I found something I want to do. And I said, Lord, if you can bless me to get into this field so I can do it for your glory and honor, that'd be great. So I prayed about it. And this thing, I got a call, and I started out at a high-end job site. I had to sign a non-disclosure form, so I can't tell anybody where I was. But let's put it like this. The company is well known around the nations, of every nation. And I started, most jobs when you start in safety is kind of low level. You start small, then you go big.
Right.
Well, man, I started at a job this was high end. This was top of the line. My safety director said, hey, this job is probably going to be one of the most safest high end jobs you ever see. And so God blessed me to get into it. And I've always had a passion for people, to answer your question. I love people. Growing up in the household with my father and my mother, we've always been just people persons. We've always loved people. And I said, if I could do something to help protect people, even if it's something that maybe they may not necessarily care about or they may not see the benefits in it, I said, I think that safety and health would be a very good career. And because of my passion for people, I have to say, I think that's why I've been successful. Because when I go to work, I don't just think like, oh, I'm just here to work and make a check for the family, which is true, but I'm here to serve. And so that's why I got into safety and health.
Wow. I mean, that right there was just mind blowing, or I would say that resonates. And I think people can hear your passion, and and I think a lot of people, I've heard people say this, but I believe it too. When you find something that you're passionate about, it won't be a job. It's like, you know what, this is, like you said, this is what I do to serve. And what better way to serve the community,
Mhm.
people, than to help people and serve people. So kudos to you,
Yes,
brother
sir.
Anthony Jr. That is
Thank you.
awesome that, you want to help people. And not only that, I like the fact that you say you prayed and asked God, what,
Yes, sir.
he opens up doors when we ask. And, man, that's wonderful, wonderful. All right. So what are some common, I guess, safety practices that we can follow maybe in our homes to keep us safe?
Yeah, a buddy of mine talked to me about that a while ago too, and I said, man, you know what? They say take these safety policies and things like that, whichever can be applied at home. Take them with you. And I'll tell you one thing. When I got into safety, my daughter was, I think she was like either just born or a few months old, and kids get into everything, and
Hmm.
adults, it's a little bit different. We know what not to touch. We know what's a hazardous chemical. Kids, they don't know. They just know it's a shiny object. It's small. I can pick it up. I can chew on it. And so the first thing that I would say for the safety, if anybody has children, or for the safety of anybody who doesn't know a specific chemical, because we all have different occupations. You may be a HVAC technician, an electrician. A lot of men, we have, power hand tools on hand, and sometimes we keep them in a certain place. And so I would say the first thing would be to make sure that your house, we call it good, practicing good housekeeping, making sure
Hmm.
that you don't have, especially if you have kids, tripping hazards and cords all on the ground, toys. I done almost rolled my ankle a few times messing with my daughter's toys. And it's funny, it's usually toys that are not sharp, but they feel sharp when you put all your weight on them. And so, yeah, I would say practice good housekeeping, and especially when you're cooking at home. It's oftentimes really good to keep, knives, sharp objects, um, a baby gate up if you got children, and make sure people know that you're cooking, that way you don't forget, just in case you do forget to turn the stove off. And then last but not least, making sure that front door is locked and you
Mm.
have your security system set up, because you could be in a nice neighborhood and you can have people with the wrong motivation and the wrong ambition. So I think that's really important, to just those few things to think about when you're home, and especially with the chemicals. If you have any type of insect spray, to make sure that when your kid gets of age, that they understand that this is not nothing to play with, because a lot of times on the actual chemicals that we buy, they have they have emergency number, contact numbers. They have
Mhm.
SDS sheets on them, which are safety data sheets, to where you can actually get more information on what is actually in that chemical. You can
Mm.
go online and print it out if you want to. But I think those things are important, just to know what's around the house, what you're doing, putting things up, making sure you're organized, and knowing um, some of the some of the chemical components that you may have that could be hazardous to your family or hazardous to your respiratory system, to where it may cause some people, like my wife has asthma, so there's certain
Mhm.
products that we have to buy, and they can't have a certain scent to them because it may bother her, and we don't, I don't want her to have an asthma attack, or
Right.
to be short of breath. So those are just some things to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, those some good points and good tips. And I think for a lot of us that are in the home, sometimes we buy stuff, but it's like we may not really pay attention to know that, hey, you know what, using this product, you got to be safe, like you were saying about your kids, especially if you have kids. You want to make sure you put them in safe places and all of that. But I think especially with you, I'm pretty sure it's probably like they say muscle memory for you. But I know for a lot of us, that may not be in the safety and health like as yourself. We go buy bleach or Pine Sol, all these products, but we don't really realize that these products they can be pretty dangerous. Although we use them every day,
Right.
they,
Yes,
they can
sir.
they can be dangerous. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
and I was thinking when you were talking about that, actually, my dad, I remember my dad this was a long time ago. He mixed, I think it was ammonia and bleach or something. He was,
Hmm.
trying to clean, he was very poignant about making sure he clean. When he cleaned, he wanted to just, I'm gonna kill every germ in sight. But
Yes,
he
sir.
ended up mixing, I think it was bleach and ammonia, and he
Mm.
put it in this container. And man, I tell you, I wasn't there. I heard about it, but it ended up, when he mixed those two chemicals, it ended up basically exploding out the bottle,
Yes,
and
sir.
it
Yes,
caused
sir.
him to have issues with breathing, where he had to, it was like a few days where he had to sit up sleeping at night. But
Oh,
he
wow.
almost, I mean, he could have killed himself. And
Right,
so I
right.
guess I'm just sharing that story just for people listening. Like, you really gotta pay attention to what you mixing. Don't go mixing crazy things, at the house, all that kind of stuff. But I know you're the expert on this. But I think those were great points that you made
Well,
about that.
they call that a chemical reaction. That is when you mix two different chemical compounds,
Hmm.
and like you said, a lot of that is if you don't. And I didn't get safety conscious like this until I got into safety. When I was a lab technician, I was in trenches 8 feet deep, no protective systems, and
Whoa.
because I was just productivity driven. I mean, that was my background. Just work, 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 work. Try to get the work done. And so, I am more safety conscious now. And like you said, yeah, that's definitely definitely a chemical reaction. I'm happy he, came out of that okay. And it was just a few days just sitting up in his body. And a lot of times our body will get acclimated to what's going on. And then, our body will start rejecting those things that's not supposed to be there. So, that's just a blessing of God giving our bodies the intelligence to know how to reject things that's not supposed to be there. So,
Yes, yes, sir. Well said. Yeah, he was only down for a few days, but I know that could have been worse. Mixing those
hmm
those chemicals together. So, thankfully he was okay with that. But great points that you make there. What are some common unsafe practices that you either hear about or see on a regular basis?
oh,
I'm sure you got a million stories on that one.
I got a lot. I I've been to my job is to, and sometimes this is where people don't like safety guys, because my job is to find the hazard to
Hmm.
protect the person. And so some people, when they see that I find the hazard, it annoys them, especially the veterans that's been doing. You've been doing construction work, mechanical work, electrical work for 20 years, and you have this 31-year-old who just started in safety 2 years ago, telling you, hey, maybe we can find a better way to do this to eliminate this specific possible job injury. So um, one of the main things that I see, and this applies not only at work but also in the home, is when we're doing handiwork.
Hmm.
Not having gloves on, not having safety glasses on. Let's say you're outside mowing the lawn, or you're doing a little gardening work. I think that those are two of the main things that I see that not only people in a actual occupational career do, but also at home.
Hmm.
And let me be honest, I've been guilty of it. I'm a lot more safety conscious now. So sometimes I'll go out and I'll do something and I'll be like, you know what, man, let me go get my gloves from the truck because I don't want to get myself hurt. And then I go into work and they're looking at the safety guy and they say, what happened to you? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I was doing something unsafe. It just, you know, that's when everybody talks about you in the safety meeting. How you going to give us a safety meeting and you're not being safe? So that's probably the most common thing that I see.
Okay, and so when you said that, I guess it came to mind how we do yard work. Us guys, we do yard work, and we got this ant, maybe this ant bait, and or this
hmm
chemical or all these bugs. So what you're saying is we need to make sure we're wearing gloves out there, right? Spreading
Right.
all of these, whatever pesticides and all of that. And like I said,
hmm
I've been guilty of it too. I try to make sure I do have some gloves, but you know that's a good point that as guys, whoever, as even as women, I know some women get out in the yard and they got the green thumbs
hmm
too. We got to make sure we're wearing the gloves, I guess is what you're saying, right?
Yes, sir. And if I could explain to the people, wearing the gloves help you eliminate two things. It depends on what type of gloves you have, but I mean, just having gloves on outside of work, doing yard work or working period is good. It helps to reduce hand injuries, any type of cuts or lacretions, especially if you're doing gardening work and you're dealing with gardening scissors or you're dealing with any. I know a lot of people that I work with, they all have. I'm probably the only person with my company that does not have a pocket knife. Everybody has a pocket knife, and it's. I'm a really avid learner, so I'm always learning. I'm like, why in the world does everybody have a pocket knife? And everybody tells me every man should have a pocket knife, and I'm like, look, I didn't grow up like that. So that, and then actually this happened this past week. So I had some guys working, and you know how they have those pallets where you set material on there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're working at a specific location, and soon as this guy picks up a pallet, and this is why I say it's very important, especially when you're doing yard work or any type of work around the house as well. As soon as he picked the pallet up, there was a black widow right under
Oh,
that pallet.
wow.
And I seen about a week before a black widow.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're going outside, especially when you're working, you're going into their environment. And if you start cutting down trees and stuff, and I tell my wife this and my friends and homeboys this all the time, man, you got to remember when you go out in nature, you're at their domain. You're not sleeping outside in trees. You're not sleeping on the corners of buildings and in the crevices of cracks in the wall. So when you start cleaning up and doing demolition work or gardening work at home, you got to remember a lot of times those spiders and different insects and bugs have been there probably for a week at a time. And here you go, you come popping up and they like, man, I've been chilling this whole time. So now you want to come clean up and you want to tear up the whole garden. And I got my eggs over here, and the female insect is real upset. So I actually got bit up at work the week before last. I don't know what got me. I got out of a safety meeting, and I tell you, I had like bumps, like little small bumps that post up in the back of my leg. I had about 8 of them. And it bothered me real bad because I'm sweating, I'm walking, working. So you just have to be cautious about all of that. And I know I kind of got off subject there, but all of that is related to having protective equipment on just to protect yourself just in case.
Yeah, no, that was good, and those are good points because I guess I didn't really think about that aspect of it as far as going out in nature. You made great points about hey, we gotta we can protect ourselves from lacerations or even chemicals. If we lacerate ourselves, chemicals getting inside of us, but that's even a better reason or a more greater reason to actually make sure you do wear gloves. You got to think about the bugs that are out there.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Or
sir.
even snakes. I know we got a lot of snakes where I live. I live in Cedar Hill too, so it's a
Gotcha.
lot of wooded areas around here. So brothers, girls, guys, make sure you wear the gloves because
Yes,
it's a
sir.
lot of stuff out there that we can be protected from. Great stuff, brother Anthony. Great stuff. I want to say to our listening audience here too that Mr. Anthony Jr. also has a podcast. He not only does this in his profession, but he also has a podcast where he's committed to bringing up different safety topics and all of that stuff. So I guess for our listening audience, I guess first my question is why did you start the podcast?
The passion and the ambition to grow. If I'm not growing, I feel stagnant. I hate not feeling like I'm not growing. And I asked myself this question last week. I said, why in the world, do I look into investing in safety and health? And why do I look into it? So I just asked myself, why am I so passionate? And it's because I have a love for people. I love to see people learn things that they didn't know, especially things that are very profitable that we may not know. Because there's a lot of things I don't know that I'm sure you know in your profession
Right.
that I don't know. And so I just like to see people grow. And I said, man, you know what? I should make a podcast about safety and health because if I really want to get the information out there, I can do it through the airwaves. So that's why I got into it.
Wow. Yeah. Good stuff, man. And like I said, you can hear your passion in it. And actually, when I saw that you put it out there that you were doing a podcast on safety, I was like, wow, that's really unique. And I'm pretty sure it's others out there that may be talking about the subject, and it's plenty of subjects for podcasts. But to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen one that talks about safety and health. So that's very unique, and I know it's a subject that needs to be talked about. So kudos to you for even,
Thank you, sir.
allowing that passion to to elevate and say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna take this a step further, and we can talk about these subjects in a podcast. So kudos to you. So in
Thank
regard
you.
to your podcast as well, did you have any second guesses regarding starting the podcast? Like, some thoughts of, now, I don't know if this is a good idea, or maybe even fear, which is something that I talk about quite a bit with different guests, because I know
Mhm.
fear is like something that can make us stagnant.
Yes, I did. And I'm trying to get past this. This is a challenge that I have, and that is, this is different, and I don't see a lot of people doing this. I've heard a few safety podcasts out there, and usually they start and they stop. They may do one segment and then you don't hear from them anymore. And that one segment was really good, in my
Hmm.
opinion. And so I said, man, am I really going to touch people with this? Does this really matter to people? I've only been in safety 2 years, and am I going to sound unprofessional, or people not going to understand me? And I had all these questions. So there was a little bit of fear there, to be
Hmm.
honest. Now, I guess you could say a tad bit of anxiety. But one thing that I've learned from, Google, YouTube, all these different social media platforms, everybody has to start from somewhere, and a lot of things aren't popular until you make it popular. You have to, and I think that's the benefit of what you're doing and what I do. And that is, it may not be popular for everybody, but it could become an asset to everybody, regardless of the fact if they think that this is important. So I decided to go ahead and go with it. I've been doing pretty decent with it. I would love to have you on my podcast as well, just to come
Certainly.
through and get some fresh voices in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was a little fearful at first, but one thing I know is, when you start something that you've never really done before, especially when you're saying you're a professional and you went to a university and got a certification. Sometimes you're like, I hope I don't say the wrong thing, because there could be another safety professional who say, well, no, he got that wrong. I've
Right.
already had a guy reach out to me and tell me that, like, well, hey, you got this wrong, that wrong, but I still want to work with you. And I'm like, you know what? I can appreciate the constructive criticism. But those were some of the things I was thinking about, and I still do to this day. But I've learned to move past that and just put the content out there and help the people.
Yes, yes. And that's why I wanted to ask that question, because, like I said, you're the expert. Like I said, that's why I brought you on, because you're the expert. I don't know what you know. And just like you said, you know stuff that nobody else knows. And regardless of whoever else is out there that may know more than you, there's still somebody out there that don't know maybe whatever subject or topic you talked about. And like I said, fear is something that I try to bring up all the time on my podcast, because I know that's something that we all deal with. I've been there
Mhm.
too, where it's like, man, who's gonna listen to me? Who's gonna, listen to me talk about these subjects? Or I don't even like how I sound. I know we all deal with that, but you make great points, because you got to just kind of move past that. And I can take that constructive criticism too, but like you said, we all have to start somewhere, and that's a point Mr. Anthony Jr. just made, that, and I just want to let that resonate with the listening audience. We all have to start somewhere. So wherever it is you're trying to start, if it's safety, if it's business,
Yes,
whatever it
sir.
is, you got to start somewhere. And fear is just something that comes natural. So
Yes, sir.
we all deal with it, but it's a way to get around it. So you made some great points there. And that's why I wanted to ask that question. I try to ask a lot of my guests that same question, because I know they dealt with it, where they had struggles, and they moved past it. So that's definitely going to help some of our
Yes, sir.
listening audience. And what is for our listener, what's the name of your podcast?
The name of my podcast is Safety Realm. Safety Realm. I try to make sure I put that M on the back, but it's called Safety Realm. It's on multiple platforms. You can get it off of, you can listen off Anchor, Spotify. You can also listen off of Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. I think so what I'm using is Anchor, and Anchor spreads it out to like 5 to 6 different
Hmm.
platforms. So that's why I like using Anchor, because I don't have to go log out here to put it there, log out here to put it there. It's just record, and whatever I can do. And for the listeners, if you have any questions specifically, even if I don't know, and trust me, I don't claim to know everything. I don't know, but I can definitely do research. I can get into the OSHA books and look up standards that, maybe you had some questions on, and I can make a podcast about it. And they can also call into the podcast and leave a question as well. And I can feature them on my actual podcast, and I can answer the
Cool.
question. So, yes, sir.
Awesome. Yes, safety realm. So for those that are listening, and we'll touch on that actually also on the end too. But Safety Realm is the name of his podcast. It's on Anchor, and you can find it on multiple platforms, which is great. And so awesome, good stuff. So I have a another. Actually, we got some surprise questions, but I got another question I want to ask you. And I'm pretty sure you can answer this. I didn't have this on our list, but I know this will resonate with you. So, and you
Mhm.
kind of talked about it, and I know you are a man of faith. I know
Yes,
that.
sir.
Actually, we fellowship together. So,
Yes, sir.
but how does your faith play a role in what you do?
Oh man, I can't express. It plays a big role. It plays a huge role. I'm very observant, and I've seen how, especially being in safety, just in case somebody wants to get into safety, let me be 100% transparent. In many cases, people don't like the safety guy because of the people who came before us.
Hmm.
Maybe they were bad apples, and you know how it is. You get a couple of bad apples, and everybody thinks everybody's a bad apple. So my faith is biblical values, the teachings of Jesus Christ has really helped me a lot with my work, because oftentimes I have to remind myself, you have to remember those biblical values. They don't only just work in the home, but they also work in the workplace.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times I'll have a guy say something sideways to me, and I'm like, man, if this was Anthony about 9 years ago, bro, you would have got a whole different response. But, I try to practice it. I'm not perfect at it, but I try to practice it. It definitely helps me. The first thing that I learned in safety is when people see you out in the field, and I learned this from scripture too. There's a principle there. When Jesus says you should love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if I love you, I'm not going to sit in the office for 8 hours. I'm actually going to come out in the field, and I'm going to actually do my job, and I'm going to check on you. I'm going to give you electrolytes, squinchers. I get you some Gatorade. I get you some Propel powders to, put some vitamins in your body. And so the number one principle that I live by, according to our faith, and me and you have the same like common faith,
Hmm.
is when you love someone the same way you love yourself, and you treat them with respect, you treat them with care, you treat them with honor, that really goes a long way. And I think it works in any job personally. Now, some people are going to try to take advantage of that because they're going to think you're too nice. And sometimes you have to kind of stump the brakes a little bit and talk with a little more bass in your voice and have some integrity to let them know, like, I'm a nice guy. Don't get it twisted, though. We're going to do this the right way. But
Right.
it's definitely played a significant role. I don't think I would have gotten this far if I didn't have, my faith in Jesus Christ and those biblical values to help me in the workplace.
Yes, sir. I can definitely relate to what you're saying, and I agree 100% with that. I think I've heard it said even this past week that one of the greatest witnesses or way to witness that we could express is our life and
Yes, sir.
how it's on display. And I mean, you just brought that home with all of that.
Yes,
So
sir.
wonderful, sir, that you're being an example not only on your job, but even in the workplace. Or I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
at home. So
Right.
you know, it
Yes,
works, and
sir.
like you said, it goes hand in hand. How you live your life, it goes with you everywhere you go. So, and you
Yes,
can
sir.
see that in your life, and not only that, your passion
Thank you, sir.
for people, that it all goes together. So kudos to you, Mr. Anthony Jr. All right, so now we're gonna get to some surprise questions. Like I
All
said,
right.
these are very easy questions. You'll be able to answer them, but the surprise is because you don't know what I'm gonna ask. But so, which do you prefer, boneless wings or bone-in wings?
You know, that's a really good question. I just had a general contractor take us out. I love free food to
Of
Buffalo Wild
course.
Wings. So, I don't know what it is about the bone in. I was actually at the table, and that's why I'm finding this question so interesting. I was at a table with a guy, and he was like, "Why do y'all like the bone in your wings?" I said, "I don't know. It just makes it taste different." And he looked at me like, "Well," I said, "I don't. It just gives it a different. I don't know what it is. I said, maybe it's a mind thing. And he looked at me and laughed. He said, yeah, brother, it's a mind thing. You ain't gonna get no flavor out of no bone. But yeah, I prefer bone in wings.
Yes, I can relate to that. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that vote. I'm sure there's somebody out there that like boneless, but
Right.
cool. All right. So next question. Chocolate or vanilla ice cream?
I love chocolate, but for the ice cream, I'm an ice cream specialist. I love ice cream. I got to go with vanilla.
All right. Yes. Yes. I can relate to that, and yes, I can agree with that. Vanilla. I love chocolate too, but
Yes,
I think
sir.
vanilla is just like, I don't know. It's like the standard. I don't know. Maybe somebody else will disagree with us, but vanilla seems like it's standard. What? Let me ask in regard to ice cream. Like what? I don't know what brand, or do you go somewhere to get? What's your favorite place?
So with ice cream, I'm a little ridiculous. I'm a little ridiculous with ice cream. I used to eat 1 gallon in a whole day. My mom
Wow.
and my dad said, "Hey, son, you can't. You got no. You got to cut that out. You can't be living like that." But I like Bluebell, but they have this other brand. I just bought ice cream yesterday. Your questions are so relevant. As soon as I got off work, I stopped somewhere and got ice cream. They have this other ice cream brand. I think it's called Gelato. I think
Okay.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I specifically like vanilla ice cream with those brands, and I like putting the small mini M&Ms in my ice cream, or they
Okay.
have something you call shell, and you can kind of
Yeah.
paint the town brown a little bit, and that shell gets real hard and chocolatey. So yeah, I'm very detailed about my ice cream.
Okay. Mr. Anthony likes M&Ms and ice cream. All right.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Cool stuff. All right. Last surprise question: Team iPhone or Team Samsung?
You know what? I'm gonna get rebuked for this. I told my dad, I said, I might have to switch on. I might have to convert on over to iPhone, and he said, no, no, you'll sell out. But it's really either or. It's really tough. I have a Android now, but so many people have iPhones that I talk to, and when I send certain messages, they don't get them, and it's kind of annoying because it seems like the people that have iPhones I can still get the same quality, like high
Hmm.
quality stuff from them on my Android.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm really, you know what? I'm between two. I really don't know. I can't answer that question right now.
Come on, sir. You got to answer that question. It's got to be
Okay.
Team Samsung. It has to be. It has to be
You
Team
know
Samsung.
what? I would go with Android right now because I have an Android. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. If I get enough money, I may have to switch over to
All right.
iPhone.
Hey, I can respect that. I can respect that. And you know what? You're right. I live in a house where all of my family has everybody has an iPhone. Everybody here. I'm the only one in my house that has a Samsung phone. And they like, when you gonna get an iPhone? When you gonna get it? Because they can see it. I think you can see it with Samsung too, whoever has a Samsung phone. But the color of the phone will show. I think it shows blue. That tells them that hey, they got a they got an iPhone. So they're like, yeah,
Right,
when you gonna switch over? But hey,
right,
anyway, it is what it is, and it's whatever flavor floats for everybody. To each its own, we'll say. And so
right.
we'll just leave that question out there for that, Mr.
Yes,
Anthony.
sir.
All right. So what are your plans for the future in regards to the healthy safety field? What are you
Whoa,
planning to do?
that question when I looked at that question yesterday, when you told me that was one of the questions, I immediately got this is gonna sound bad because my generation and their feelings, but this was a good feeling though. This is a good feeling because I told my wife, I said, long term, I would like to take safety international. So if I could work with
Mm,
federal governments and travel the world a little bit, of course, I don't want to do that at the expense of not being at home too much, but I would like to work with third world countries where,
yeah.
like in Africa, a lot of times when they're building homes and they have beautiful homes in Africa, I've done some research because when I was in high school, I did AutoCAD. So architecture is something that I really like looking at.
Hmm.
And I've seen a lot of guys working with sandals on, no hard hats. They're climbing on top of stuff. And I know that not everybody has access like we do here in America to certain things, and they don't have certain programs set up the exact same. And so I would like, as far as I can go and wherever God would allow me to go, because sometimes we want to go real far, but it's just not his will. So I
Right.
would like to go as far as I possibly can. I mean, if I can help people and impact lives and continue to do podcasts like this is the first podcast that I've ever featured on. So I'm very humbled to be here, because I feel like I could be able to just a little bit, even if I can get one person just to look at safety and health and say this is important, it'll be great. But I just hope to maximize my full potential as much as I can, make as much money as I can for the sake of my family, and reinvest it, and hopefully invest into the next generation. I'm 31 years old, and I'm saying that, but I'm thinking about the next generation after me. And I'm like, I know safety and health is not really, everybody wants to be a doctor, a fireman, a policeman, an IT. And when you talk about safety and health, it's not really popular. So I want to I feel like I have an opportunity to make it popular. And if I could do that by impacting the next generation and helping them find something, even if they don't want to do safety and health, at least I did something that could have helped somebody. So whatever I can do to maximize my full potential in this industry, in this career path, that's my plans. I don't know what that means and where that goes, but I stopped capping myself, because for a while, a lot of people don't know my history. I used to be in content mastery from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. And people thought I had a learning disability, and that I didn't. The problem was I didn't want to apply the actual schoolwork. And so now I'm in an honors program. And the reason why I'm passionate like this is because I know that a lot of people, they kind of put themselves down because they just they get around the wrong people. They don't get around positive people and things like that. So I try to help people the best way that I can with whatever information that I can give. But yeah, with safety and health, wherever I can go, that's where I want to go.
Man, wow, that is awesome. I think that's great. I think that's a great idea to want to take it international. And you know what? I was just listening at you talk, and I think after this conversation, I think one thing that people should be able to come away with is that this Mr. Anthony Jr. is passionate about people, passionate about helping people. And I think you've expressed that so much in this, and that is awesome that you want to, help people. And I've enjoyed this, and we'll definitely try to maybe do this down the road again. I'll have you on again. Maybe we can talk about something else.
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure there's plenty in the safety realm that's out there that you can talk about.
Yes,
but
sir.
I've enjoyed this, and man, it is a pleasure just to have you on, Mr. Anthony Jr. I appreciate your expertise, all of this information you've shared. It's been great. It's been wonderful. And so just for our listening audience, again, I guess if you can tell them about your podcast, how people can connect with you, where they can find you, just so that, we can have that information out there. And I'm going to also, when this is done, I'll put that information, in the show notes and all of that so that they can connect with you.
Yes, sir. So you all can connect with me in regards to safety and health on YouTube as well. I do have a YouTube channel as well. And I really honestly haven't been on there. So I done forgot the name. I believe it's Safety Realm still. I believe it's still Safety Realm Anthony Jr. You can type that in there, and you will see me on, people don't know how I look, but I'm an African-American male. You'll see me on there, and I'll be talking about OSHA compliance and safety and health issues in the workplace and some things that you can take home with you. And then the second place that you all can get in contact with me and the content that I put out is actually my podcast, Safety Realm. And like I said, you all can call in, and I love communicating with people. Life is about people to me. So if you can just leave a message, it don't even have to be 20 seconds. It could be 8 seconds just to say, hey, I like the information you're putting out, or, hey, maybe you should do this on your podcast. And, constructive criticism, I'm okay with that too, because I can grow from it. But they can connect with me there.
It's been a pleasure, sir. I appreciate your time, and good day to you. And like I said, we'll try to get you on down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for having me.
Awesome information shared on this episode today. I want to thank Mr. Anthony Jr. for his time and coming on the show just to share his safety expertise. We definitely appreciate him. I want to encourage you to go check out his podcast, Safety Realm, which can be found on Anchor, iTunes, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And that's Safety Realm. Realm spelled R-E-A-L-M. So go check it out. Go support him. I believe he's also on YouTube as well, which can be found under Safety Realm as well on YouTube. I'll be sure to put links to his podcast and references to it in the show notes of this episode. I want to also say thanks for listening to the 24 Hour Boss podcast. We definitely appreciate you guys listening and tuning in. If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a review on iTunes. We thank you in advance for your support, for your time, for your reviews. And until the next time, go and do great things. Thanks for visiting the 24 Hour Boss podcast. Be sure to visit our site at www.24hrboss.com to be inspired, to learn, and start a side hustle.